Welcome to the Home Business Podcast with Richard Captain Henderson, publisher of Home Business Magazine, and Sherilyn Colleen, managing editor. This how-to show helps you successfully operate your home-based business.
Greetings and welcome to the Home Business Podcast. I'm Richard Captain Henderson, your skipper at Home Business TV.
Hey, I'm Lynn, your co-host.
Let's gear for C and get underway. So what's your time worth?
Home-based entrepreneurs who operate service or consulting businesses have to figure out what their time is worth.
Achieving our financial and professional goals requires time, and your time is your money.
No one knows this better than busy mom and entrepreneur Romi Neustadt, author of You Can Have It All, just not at the same damn time.
So greetings, Romi Neustadt. Welcome to the Home Business Podcast. Say hello to our audience.
Hi there. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for dialing in from the beautiful, they don't call it the Gold Coast. What is it, West Coast? I don't know where the Gold Coast is.
The West Coast. And, you know, we in San Diego call it San Diego because there's no place like it.
Now, when I was in the Navy, we called it Sand Dog, and everybody wanted to get to San Diego. So you've arrived where everyone wants to end up. So
I know. I'm so lucky.
And you're working from home.
Yes, I've been working from home for over 10 years now.
Good.
Wow. Living your best life. Well, let's get to know you better, Romi. So you're a mompreneur and an author?
Yes, I am. I'm a former corporate chick. I used to be a lawyer, then a PR.
I like that. Wait a minute, a corporate chick?
Yes. I was a lawyer, which I hated. I hope I'm not offending any lawyers out there. And then I became a PR executive for a number of years before I started my own business. And I started my home business around a baby and a toddler, and eventually was able to leave the billable hour fee-for-service model and have been an entrepreneur from home ever since. And I'm thrilled that my husband, who's a doctor, was also able to leave his clinical practice and work from home too. So we're just here all the time, and it's great.
So you had kind of a lifestyle change with a new baby and, you know, things changing, and that kind of drove the change you made to working from home, or just kind of also with, you know, getting kind of a little burned out with the corporate life?
All of the above, actually. I was looking for a lot more flexibility. I wanted to own my own schedule, which I was able to do building my own business from home. And I was looking for a new adventure as well. I had felt like I had done everything there was to do in public relations. So it was the perfect fit, and I worked my butt off to make it a reality.
Why do so many lawyers cut down being lawyers? I mean, it seems like lawyers make great biz entrepreneurs. I mean, it's something about the thinking you go through to train for law is, it translates over pretty well to being an entrepreneur.
Look, I am so grateful for my legal training, and I have a whole host of lawyer friends that I went to the University of Virginia Law School with, and they are blissfully happy. For me, I went into the wrong kind of law for me. I became a litigator, and it turns out I'm not meant to fight for a living. I'm meant to build things and build people up. Mm-hmm. And so maybe had I got into a different type of law, it might have been a better fit, but there's no doubt it is an extraordinary training for a whole host of professions.
Well, you ended up where you wanted to be, so that's great. Well, time is our most critical asset. Romi, how did you carve out an important niche in the area of calculating the worth of one's time?
So being a working mom, any working parent out there knows this, your time is so precious, and there are so many things coming at us on any given day. How much we're supposed to do, who we're supposed to be, how we're supposed to look while we're doing it. We have never-ending growth on our to-do list, and trying to figure out what things to say yes to, what things to say no to, what to delegate or what to delete completely from our plates is really a challenge. And I certainly found it to be an extraordinary challenge as my business was growing exponentially, my kids were growing exponentially, and all the demands on my time were happening. So I had to figure out a way to be able to understand what my time was worth in a non-emotional way. I don't know if either of you can relate, but
it does get kind of emotional figuring out where you have to spend your time.
Well, and you don't want to disappoint anybody, right? I used to have a hard time saying no. I used to have all of these preconceived notions of where I should be putting my time based on what others thought or what I thought I should be doing. And so I needed a way to be able to streamline my life, because I got to tell you, there was a point in time when I was drowning. I don't know if any of your...
I've heard that from every entrepreneur. I mean, until you get this sorted out, I mean, your head is spinning with all the different priorities.
That's right. So creating a way for myself to figure out what my time is worth per hour was the key to being able to unemotionally say, this is serving my priorities, and this is what I can uniquely do, so I'm going to hang on to that. If it's not serving my priorities or my goals, I'm going to redline that sucker. Or if there's somebody else whom I could be hiring to do that, well, I've got to do just that and get it off my plate.
Yeah, that's one of the toughest things, is making that transition where you really have to look at things that should be delegated. And it costs you more to do it yourself. Then it always comes into, it's a tough choice because you're like a sailor, swabbing, all hands on deck, and where do you find the capital resources for that? So sometimes you can't actually do that kind of delegation, but it's important you bring that out, because it is such an important calculation everybody should make in their business.
Absolutely. And I'm a recovering control freak, so it's especially difficult.
Recovering lawyer and recovering control freak. I would have hated to be in the courtroom against you.
I wasn't a happy lawyer, but I was a good lawyer. So relinquishing that control and trusting other people to actually perform is amazing. But as you'll find, as we explain further of what this calculation is that I came up with, even if you can't afford to offload some of the critical business operations that you're doing just yet in your business, there are other parts of your life that can be freed up. So you're actually able to enjoy more of your life and have more of the things that you really want in it.
So, Romi, touching more on this, why do you think small business owners have a hard time assigning an hourly worth to their time?
So I think those of us who work from home tend to believe the nonsense, and it is sheer nonsense, that because we're working from home, it's somewhat not quite as legit or professional, or because we're working in our homes, that we somehow should be doing everything, not just the work stuff at home, but everything else. And I have found this because I work with tens of thousands of women. This is incredibly endemic to women who oftentimes think we should be doing it all anyway.
Mm-hmm.
That's such a great point you're making, because there's this emotional connection with it. Yeah, you're working from home, just do it all. But if you were to take your same office and move it to, say, a shared office space, then suddenly, now you're not working at home anymore. You're probably getting less work done, but then it's okay to delegate. But it is funny you bring that up. There's just like this perception. But I think it's slowly going away with just, the revolution continues, and more people across more and more professions are working from home.
Absolutely. And years ago, when I figured this out, that I had to come up with this calculation, it was dawning on me that I was building something that was going to create revenues that far surpassed anything I was able to do in corporate America. So if I didn't operate like the CEO of this big business I was creating, then I was never going to get to be where I wanted to be. And even if I did, I was going to be exhausted, stressed, feeling inadequate, like a failure in other parts of my life. And I wasn't going to enjoy what I'd worked so hard to build.
Yeah, there's kind of not establishing that work. This can send you into a downward spiral as you're trying to juggle everything. But Romi, let's talk, what are some of the important factors that would go into one's hourly worth calculation?
Okay, so it requires you figure out just two numbers. I'm not a math whiz, so this was a big deal. I came up with this mathematical calculation, but it is as simple as can be. It's two numbers. First of all, you've got to figure out what your dream life looks like. Look ahead, maybe 3 or 5 years, and every single thing that would go into that life. And you can't censor yourself. You have to go all in of what you really want. What kind of house are you living in? Do you have kids? Do you have pets? Those suckers are expensive as hell. What kind of vacations are you taking? I mean, everything. Figure that out and then total it up and figure out what is that life going to cost you per year. That's the annual income that you want to make eventually. And then the
I'm going to put some taxes in there. Yeah,
right.
that's
I mean, and what I have found, and it is staggering, so few people actually take the time to do that. They say they want a better life, but they don't take the time to explicitly figure out what are the elements of their life that they actually want and what's that going to cost them. So then the other number you've got to figure out is how many hours a week do you want to be working? I'm not talking what you're doing now. I'm not talking how many hours it's going to take you to build this, but eventually what are the hours you want to be working per week? Now with those two numbers, that's how you calculate what your hourly worth is.
So going into specifics, can you say exactly what the mathematical formula is then? And like an
Absolutely. Okay, so you take the number of hours per week that you want to be working times 52 weeks, how many weeks there are in a year.
All right, you're getting past my mathematical ability. Keep going though.
All right, you can get your calculator, your phone out, I promise. Okay, so the number of hours per week you want to work times 52 weeks. And that's how many hours per year you want to be working, right? So that's part one. Then part two is you take your annual income, that big audacious number that you came up with, divide it by the hours per year, and that's how you get what your time is worth every hour. Right now, when I first did this calculation based on what I wanted, this was 7 years ago, my hourly worth came out to $962.
Yeah, I was going to say mine would, what if I come up with $1,000?
No. And without a doubt, I've taken tens of thousands of people through this calculation, and the vast majority of folks lowball themselves to begin with, and I send them back to the drawing board because they're so reticent to dream bigger about what their life could be. And so when I found out, okay, $962 an hour, that's way more than the billable rate I ever charged as a lawyer or PR exec. You better believe that changed how I was looking at every bit of time I was spending, not just in my professional life, but my personal life as well.
Well, can you give us some examples of how your hourly rate changed, what you were doing versus what you ended up delegating?
Absolutely. So every time a colleague reached out and wanted my time to talk through something, or oftentimes to have me help them find something that was readily available for them, or to bitch about something as opposed to problem solve, I would see that time, wait a minute, that's going to be about $350 down the toilet. I can't spend that time. When it came time for me to stop trying to create all of the marketing shareables that I needed to do, but I could hire somebody about $22 an hour to be doing it for me when my hourly worth was exponentially more. That was a no-brainer expense because it would free me up to do more of the true income producing activity that only I could uniquely do. Now, in the personal life realm, it became very apparent that—
You can tell your husband, say, hey, I'm sorry, I can't spend any time with you. The hourly rate's too low.
No, and here's the great thing, because I started doing things like hiring a house cleaner.
Right.
Paying
up
for
personal time then, right.
Paying for meal delivery service as opposed to trying to cook a home-cooked meal every night. All of those things, because it was much, much less than my hourly worth. I actually had more time for my husband, for date nights, for other things, and it improved everything.
So kind of like by providing, it sounds, this mathematical formula provided some structure, and it gives you some way to kind of really analyze, even if you don't get to an exact number, you're going through some thinking about how you total it up and divide it. And it kind of guides your thinking so that you start, prioritizing how you spend time and what you delegate. It's kind of a way, it sounds like it's a way of, thinking better about how you're looking at your worth.
It's absolutely life-changing. And I've heard from countless other entrepreneurs that it has completely rocked their world because they were spending so much of their time on things that weren't actually serving their goals or their priorities or moving the needle because they thought they should. And anytime you have a thought or something comes out of your mouth where it says, I should be doing something, to me, I've learned that's a red flag. We have to stop shoulding all over the place.
Shooting, I like that. That's good. Yeah, I mean, there's some important principles here.
Romi Neustadt, this has been a great discussion on calculating the value of your time. Do you have any final points you'd like to share?
Well, thank you so much. I've loved this discussion. I'm incredibly passionate about helping people focus on what's really important in their lives and saying no to everything else. So I really appreciate you having me on.
All right, thank you for being such a great guest on the Home Business Podcast.
To learn more about Romi Neustadt and how to set your hourly rate, visit www.romineustadt.com or our podcast website for more information on guests.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Home Business Podcast. Share your feedback with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or at our website, homebusinessmag.com.
Visit the website for information on advertising, subscribe to our newsletter. Please visit our sponsors. For more information, visit homebusinessmag.com or the expo at homebusinessexpo.com.
I'm Richard Captain Henderson saying anchors away.
We'll talk with you soon. Until then,
make it a great home-based biz day.